Hello and welcome to today's Tech Talk on building end-to-end decision workflows featuring a Gurobi Nextmv and Streamlit example brought to you by Aimpoint Digital. My name is Haley. I'm part of the Nextmv team and I'll be your MC for today. Our presenters are William Morono, Senior Data Scientist at Aimpoint Digital, and Tiffany Bogich, Head of Product at Nextmv. They're going to provide an overview to get us started today and then dive into a demo of a batch production scheduling example in a biopharmaceutical context. We're saving time for Q&A at the end, so we encourage you to use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. You can also use the chat off to the side. Just keep an eye on that host and panelist versus everyone toggle so your question or comment goes to the right audience. And with that, I'm going to disappear into the Zoom backstage. Tiff, William, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Haley, and great to have everyone here today. So today we're here to talk about end-to-end decision workflows. So it's a big decision intelligence world out there. Decision models don't exist in isolation. There are data solutions, different solvers and solving technologies, different tools for visualizing those solutions, and tools for building user interfaces so folks can interact with the results of optimization models. So it's a big ecosystem out there. And Nextmv is designed to connect all of these pieces together with the decision ops platform. So we make it easier to leverage the full ecosystem of tooling, so you can use whatever solver, data solution, visualization tool that you need for a given problem. We help with everything from building to testing, deploying, and collaborating on decision models. Our partner who's here today is Aimpoint Digital. They're a leading data science firm that specializes in building optimization solutions. And today we'll be showcasing a demo of the work Aimpoint has done with a combination of the Nextmv platform, Gurobi as the solver, and Streamlit as a visualization tool. And this is just one example of our collaborative efforts with Aimpoint. They have a lot of experience doing this type of thing over and over again. And I have firsthand experience seeing them in action. So I'm excited to hand it over to William to walk us through a batch production scheduling example. And William, maybe to start, you can walk us through a high level of Aimpoint's overall approach to building solutions.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tiffany. So, like what Tiffany mentioned just now, we want to share how we build optimization workflows that don't just, solve tough mathematical problems out there, right? The important thing is those mathematical optimization models actually gets adopted, right, by business users. And at Aimpoint Digital, we've seen time and time again that even the most elegant model fails if users don't trust it. That's why our approach goes beyond just the modeling side of things, right? We focus on building solutions that people believe in, that people will actually understand, and people use long term. And so we follow this 5-phase methodology to deliver our business-ready optimization, starting with the very top, which is discovery and problem framing, right? We don't just start with things like what do you want to optimize, but instead we also ask questions like what kind of decisions that you're struggling with, right? What are the trade-offs that you're trying to balance? We try to document KPIs, available data, critical business rules up front so that we can create a great foundation to our optimization model. And so moving on to that, second phase is model development and testing, right? Here's where the theory meets reality, right? We try to develop modular and solvable models with performance benchmarks. The key insight here is that, again, the most elegant mathematical model is pointless if it can't solve real-world instances in reasonable time. And so we validate model logic with realistic scenarios and establish baseline performance benchmarks early on from day one. Moreover, we then move on to the third point, which is solution validation and stakeholder buy-in. This is where many projects fail, right? We prioritize clear explanations and visualizations upfront, as well as actively gathering stakeholder feedback and then iterate from that. Let's say that you're working with a plant manager, right? And let's say that your plant manager can't really understand why the model made the decision it made. Then it's, most likely the case that they won't trust the output. Furthermore, we then move on to the fourth phase, which is performance optimization. So once we have stakeholder buy-in, we focus on meeting production performance requirements, and this involves numerous things, right? Including implementing advanced heuristics for, say, faster solve times, comprehensive parameter tuning, as well as conducting what-if analysis. And then last but not least is production deployment and maintenance. A lot of people think that deployment is the end of things. It's actually the start of this whole iterative continuous improvement cycle, right? We try to implement monitoring, version control, and ongoing support to ensure the long-term success and usage of our tool, right? And so again, all in all, this optimization approach that we have shown you guys here, this process has helped us build solutions that aren't just built for proof of concepts, but they're used in real operations. And so let's bring this to life with a real client example from a biopharma manufacturing client of ours. And in particular, in biopharma manufacturing, we are basically dealing with extremely complex multi-step production processes where a single batch can be worth millions and millions of dollars, right? Our client basically faced a critical challenge. Their facilities operate under strict regulations with limited equipment capacity, yet manual scheduling also took weeks and delivered suboptimal results. With multiple product lines requiring different equipment configurations, processing times, different quality controls, right? Manually identifying these optimal schedules was virtually impossible. And so they basically needed to simultaneously, minimize cost, maximize equipment utilization, and meet delivery commitments. This is a perfect application for mixed integer programming, right? With just, let's just assume 3 products, and we're dealing with 5 equipment pieces over a 30-day horizon. You are basically managing hundreds or even thousands of decision variables at once, right? That's why we needed mathematical optimization. We want to definitely find a method that can help us sieve through all those possible combinations in an effective manner. But solving the mathematical problem was only half the battle, right? The client actually needed a complete end-to-end workflow that allows them have the ability to do real-time scenario analysis and clear scheduling visualizations, right? And this is exactly where platforms like Nextmv becomes essential for handling the monitoring and traceability aspects of our model. And to show what this looks like in practice to y'all, I'm going to show you our interactive optimization dashboard that, again, right, demonstrates exactly that kind of end-to-end optimization workflow looks like when we try to combine Nextmv's platform capabilities with Gurobi's powerful solver engine. So this is what our production scheduling dashboard looks like. Let's start off from the how-to guide, which basically shows you 3 main components, right, of our end-to-end workflow. And this structure right here mirrors exactly what we discussed in our Aimpoint Digital approach, right? We need to define our problem inputs first, then run optimization scenarios, and then validate our results with stakeholders. Another comment that I would like to make here is that this dashboard is designed with different user personas in mind. Business analysts are our primary users. They need an intuitive interface to explore scenarios without diving into the code, right? But notice later on how the interface abstracts the complexity of the optimization model with simple drop-down menus and sliders, right? This collaborative approach means analysts can run their own what-if scenarios, validate results against domain expertise, and iterate quickly with operations teams, right? The beauty is that analysts basically get this self-service capabilities. while us, the data scientists, the optimization scientists, maintain control over the underlying optimization logic through Nextmove's model versioning and deployment pipeline. So let's dive into each of this section, right, to see how this works in practice. We first move on to the define model input step. So basically, this is the heart of our problem definition. And you can see these containers below, right? Each one represents a different pharmaceutical product with its specific manufacturing requirements. If I were to click on one of the product here, we can see things like, product name, product description, and more importantly, the demand, right? When we need it completed and how many units, right? This captures the business constraints that we talked about earlier. Now, here where it gets interesting, right? Each product follows a linear sequence of process steps. If I were to expand this first process step, you can basically see we define what links one step to another step through process inputs and outputs, right? For this first step, we're taking in raw materials as inputs and then producing this ibuprofen sieving as an output, right? That output will then become the input for the next step, creating this whole logical flow to our manufacturing process. You might notice this small arrow next to each process step, right? And so if I were to click here, we can basically assign specific machines to each step, specific resources to each step. This is where our resource constraint comes into play, right? For each resource, we can define things like setup time, process time, and critically in this case, changeover time. Changeover time is the cleaning time basically required between different products to avoid cross-contamination from occurring, especially in an FDA regulated environment. And again, right, this is a perfect example of a business rule that's easy to overlook, but critical for realistic scheduling. And then last but not least, since multiple products can use the same equipment, we indicate shared resources with this check mark as well. And this is where the mathematical complexity we discussed earlier really comes into play, right? The solver needs to optimize across all these shared resource constraints simultaneously. So yeah, that's how we define for each product, right? Each product has its own specific set of process steps along with specific resources that we can allocate to. Now, shifting gears for a bit, want to show you another powerful tool that we have created here, which is the scenario management feature, right? If we were to see this button in the corner here, what it does is I can basically save my current set of input configuration, and let's call this something like baseline scenario, right? If I were to hit save, basically that records my set of input configurations ready to be executed through Nextmove Cloud, right? So that saves one scenario. Now, let's say that I want to test what happens if, we were to reduce one of the process times from one of our process steps, right? Let's say this resource. Maybe we've, upgraded a piece of equipment that improved our, process time there to let's say 5, but it increases the changeover time, right? It increases the changeover time to 60 due to it being a new machine, right? And if we were to save this, we can basically create another scenario, and let's call this, updated process time, right? And we can hit save, and we end up with two scenarios ready to be executed. Again, right, this scalability transforms optimization from what used to be a one-time analysis into an interactive planning tool, right? Production managers can now quickly test what if scenarios without actually needing to understand the underlying mathematics. And this addresses something that we see constantly, right? Stakeholders want to explore alternatives and not just a single quote unquote optimal solution. So moving on to the next scenario, right? Or the next tab. Basically, this is the place where we'll interact with Nextmove and Gurobi, right? I can basically select which scenarios that I want to run. And at the same time, I'm also going to need to provide my Nextmove API key in order for me to send these inputs to Nextmove Cloud so that it can run in Nextmove Cloud and gets tracked there, right? And so while these are running behind the scenes, again, we're basically sending our scenario inputs to Nextmove's cloud platform, which then executes our optimization model powered by Gurobi, right? This is, again, a perfect example of that end-to-end workflow we've been discussing, right? Instead of having separate tools for model development, for model solving, for results management, basically Nextmove provides this integrated platform, right? I like to call it a one-stop shop for all your optimization needs.
So it seems, while that's running, or I guess it just finished, but it seems like, so this interface is for the business analysts, and what Nextmove provides for you as the model developer is a system of record. And maybe you could talk a little bit about how that system of record is helpful as you're developing the model.
Yeah, that's a good point as well, Tiff. Because recording things on the back end, logging things, right, is critical because optimization models are inherently complex systems, right, where small changes can have cascading effects. Without comprehensive logging of run data, metrics, visualizations, basically we lose that ability to be able to reproduce results, right, or even debug issues as they come. The impact of not tracking these is severe because we can't really validate model performance over time, troubleshoot when, say, results seem off, or even provide that audit trail, right, that business stakeholders need to trust when they want to provide recommendations, right? So yeah, I think it's key here. Okay, yep, like we noticed here, we've seen the results, and these high-level metrics are again being tracked in the back end in our Nextmove Cloud, which we'll see later on. But then again, right, these summary metrics are useful, but the real power comes from visualizing and comparing the detailed schedules. So now we can move on to the Visualize Results tab, and here's where we can see our solution validation comes to life, right? This Gantt chart shows exactly when each product should run on which machine. The y-axis basically shows our process steps in sequence, and then the x-axis shows time. And if I were to hover over each block here, we can see exactly when this process runs, when it ends, and which product it belongs to, right? This level of detail is, again, what production managers need to actually implement in practice. And we can also compare between two different scenarios because we ran two scenarios, right? We can see that, these two schedules or two input configurations resulted in a more or less different, right? Different optimization results. With a difference of 15 hours here in make span, we can see that products are sequenced differently, leading to different make span and changeover patterns, right? This demonstrates the power of mathematical optimization, right? It finds arrangements that we humans might never consider. If we try to do this manually with the same configuration, right, 8 batches across 3 different products with multiple machines, the number of possible arrangements would be overwhelming. But for Gurobi, this solves in a matter of seconds, and Nextmove makes the result immediately accessible and understandable. Okay, so that's the tool, the UI component that we've shown you guys here. Now you guys might be wondering what our log runs and results look like in Nextmove Cloud. So if we were to go to Nextmove Cloud now, what we have here is basically the observability feature, right, that Nextmove provides. Every run we execute it is automatically tracked here in the Nextmove Cloud Console. When I open one of these runs, I basically get comprehensive information about who ran it, when it executed, how long it took, and all those relevant metrics. And the good thing is that with these metrics, they are custom configured. You can custom configure them, right? You can define the necessary KPIs and metrics that your stakeholder needs. And similarly, like what Tiff alluded earlier, right? We also keep track of inputs, exactly what data went in, and outputs, right? Capturing the complete optimization output that powered our Gantt chart. And more importantly, we also see the logs here, right? You can see Gurobi solver basically working hard behind the scenes, right? This provides us that, again, audit trail that's essential for production systems, right? If, let's say, you're wondering, did the run go to completion, right? You have complete traceability of what's going on here. Next, we also have the analysis tab here. And what this does actually is it keeps track of the progression of the objective function over time, helping you understand, say, solver performance and potentially tune parameters. For this demo, though, we didn't set this up as the runs complete in a matter of seconds, but do know that this is also another capability that Nextmove offers. And then last but not least, we have the assets tab that basically keeps track of the artifacts that are generated along with our optimization model results. So as you can see, that Gantt chart that we showed earlier in our UI, that is also tracked here in the assets tab. For the sake of time, right, I won't get to a full demonstration of what each Nextmove feature does here, but do know that Nextmove has the ability, right, to manage model versions and instances. Probably, Tiff, can you talk us through how that level of model management supports model development in general?
Yeah, happy to. And maybe if you want to show the instances, I think that's helpful. So versions are kind of what you think of in other systems. Instances in Nextmove are a combination of versions and configuration. They give you a unique endpoint. Lots of folks use them for like staging versus production. The nice part being that you're running your tests and your production on the same infrastructure, so it helps with reliability. You can also use them for different geos or tag them connected to other units that make sense for your business. So it's a helpful way of kind of managing different versions and configuration at the same time.
So yeah, while we are switching screens here, basically all this integration, right, between Nextmove's platform capabilities and Gurobi solver creates exactly this kind of end-to-end workflow, right, that gets adopted and trusted in production environments. And to tie it back, let's quickly revisit our 5-phase framework, right, now with Nextmove and Gurobi layered in. Basically, discovery and framing. Nextmove helps rapidly prototype and validate ideas with stakeholders. And then moving on to the model development phase, Nextmove SDKs let us build flexible and testable models. And when it comes to solution validation, those interactive UIs using Streamlit and Nextmove APIs make validation collaborative and iterative, right? And then speaking of performance optimization, this is where Gurobi also comes into play, right? Gurobi handles the complex computations efficiently, and we can test for things like sensitivity analysis and tune parameters as well. And last but not least, deployment and maintenance. As we all see, Nextmove Cloud provides the infrastructure for scalable deployment, monitoring, and logging, right? And so together, these tools accelerate development and create, adoptable production-grade solutions. So, want to close this out by wrapping up with 5 key takeaways from our journey building optimization systems, right? First things first is end-to-end workflows beat point solutions, right? Again, success isn't about having the best model, but it's about integrating modeling, integrating the solution and visualization in one seamless system, right? And the key is that observability is the thing that builds trust, right? Things like logging, audit trails, safe scenario runs, right? Basically, those elements turn black box models into transparent, explainable systems. Moreover, scenario analysis is essential. Stakeholders, again, wants to explore alternatives, not be handed, one optimal result, right? Scenario comparison is the one that drives engagement and usage. Fourth one here is start simple, scale over time. Don't model every detail up front, right? What we like to do at Aimpoint is we try to deliver quick wins and then build incrementally from there. Again, building that trust along the way as well. And last but not least, the goal is better decisions, right? Ultimately, it's not about solving the math, but it's about enabling faster, better business decisions through optimization. So yeah, just some final thought from my end. Here is, modern platforms like Nextmv and Gurobi basically allows us to do multiple things right now, right? Scenario analysis is one of them. And now we also have the tools to build optimization solutions that are robust, understandable, and actually being used long term.
Awesome. Yeah, and that last point is key, making them actually usable. Thanks so much for the demo. I'm gonna switch over to Q&A and hand it over to Haley to surface any questions we got.
And we have a couple that have come in either through the chat, direct message, or the Q&A feature. So if there's other questions that folks have, feel free to reach out. We're going to address the ones that we've got in the couple of minutes that we have left here today, but we will make sure to follow up with you if we don't get to a question. So there's one that came in, William, when you were showing the run scenarios view in Streamlit, just as you were setting up which scenarios you wanted to be able to select and execute. So someone had asked, why not use or integrate a solution with simulation software that's specifically designed for production processing? And I would imagine there's some level of effort or sophistication that you want to bring to the solution, but I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, so, well, truth is, client requested it to be an optimization solution because that's what they're comfortable with. But yeah, do know that, simulation softwares also work in this case due to the, time scale that we're dealing with, the time horizon that we're dealing with. But at the end of the day, they're trying to get for a solution that's actually deterministic and solution that they can, reproduce on a regular basis. So that's why, the client and us think that mixed integer program here in this case would be the way to go.
Makes sense. All right. Around the same time, another question came in, and hopefully I convey this correctly. Someone was looking to better understand. So there's 100 products. Would I have to remember to which product each of the product K box corresponds?
Well, that's also another good question. In this case, again, it's pretty small, so we can handle things accordingly. But in reality, if it were to be, 100 different products, we would slightly change the UI settings, right? We wouldn't display all 100 products. We would allow users to, manually select which products that they want to create or configure, right? That way, it would be much more systematic.
Excellent. All right, I've got two more that I want to surface here. I think there's a question that came in around kind of like the time or cost savings and the experience that the two of you may have seen either with this specific use case or others in terms of having kind of these end-to-end workflows. Can you speak to that in terms of how those efficiencies manifest?
Yeah, happy to kick us off there. In our experience, we have seen projects take months to quarters or even years to kind of get an optimization off the ground without some of this tooling. Versus we recently had someone able to kind of completely change their underlying solving technology and stand up new models in less than a month. So it helps accelerate that model development and deployment process with the kind of standardized infrastructure and all the tooling that William highlighted.
Yep. And just to piggyback off of that, without Nextmove, realistically, we would be spending weeks just to get the infrastructure up and running, right? We can imagine ourselves spending, let's say the first 2 weeks just setting up infrastructure, configuring, cloud resources, building API endpoints, handling data pipelines, right? And then another 2 weeks integrating the optimization solver with your data sources and then building basic monitoring, right? With Nextmove, we can basically compress this in a matter of days, right? Because the platform handles the infrastructure, deployment, and integration layers automatically, letting us basically focus on the main thing, which in this case is the optimization logic.
Right, excellent. All right, we're slightly over. There's a couple of questions that have come in that I'm going to make sure that we answer after this tech talk today. So do not fret. We will make sure to follow up with additional details. Tiffany, William, thank you so much for your time today and for the presentation. We'll make sure to share the recording with everyone after this session is over with. And again, we'll make sure to follow up with folks that had questions. Thank you so much for joining, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.